Ladies and gentlemen, the Alabama Senate will now come to order. Our prayer today will be delivered by Dr. Rick Lance, Director of the Alabama Baptist State Board of Missions since 1998. He leads and assists more than 3,200 Baptist churches all across Alabama. Dr. Lance.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, and thank you all for being here and being able to gather in your authoritative positions. We want you to know that not only during this time people pray for you, but my wife and I in multitude of duties. Let's join together in prayer. Our Father and our God, the one who created us, the one who can redeem us, the one who can sustain us, we come to you today praying for these who are in authority in the state Senate. We pray for all of the ones and all of the decisions that will be made not only today but in the rest of this session. We realize that we're humans. We have frailties. We have flaws. But we ask in the power of your name that we might be prudent people, depending not upon our wisdom, but only the wisdom that can come from you. As we pray for daily bread, may we pray for daily wisdom. We pray for patience, patience with others, knowing that there is no way we will always agree, but we can be agreeable. Help us to look to the greater good of what it means to Alabama to be served by these here. And we pray that we'll never forget our purpose. And that is ultimately, as believers, we are to bring glory to your name. But as we serve in this capacity, we are to do the best we can for the people of Alabama, despite our differences. We thank you, Lord, for this privilege and responsibility. And may we who are in your kingdom lift up these who are in authority on the state level. We ask this, Lord, in the strong, saving name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Lance. Today, the pledge will be led by Ethan McKenzie. Ethan attends Huntsville High School and is paging for Senator Livingston. Ethan.
Attention, salute, pledge.
All right. Thank you, Ethan. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman-Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shellnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have 30 senators present, which is a quorum. The Senate's ready to transact business.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move the Senate excuse absent senators.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move that we dispense with a reading of the journal from the previous legislative day and that we adopt said journal.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. All right, got several different groups want to recognize in the gallery. When I call your name, if you could please stand. First is the guest of Senator Hovey and Senator Price, the Lee County Young Leaders. If y'all could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. All right, next group, I'd like to recognize the guest of Senator Chambliss, the leadership Autauga County. If y'all could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. All right, and final group I want to recognize is and they're also the guest of Senator Chambliss, is the APT Young Heroes, Madeline Doster, Philip Moss, Patricia Orsi, Catherine Orsi, Clara Parker, and Caitlin Schengelfeld. If y'all could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. All right, Mr. Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion at this point to set aside sunset for a special order calendar.
Okay. Secretary, call the long roll, please.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 1 no. The motion passes. All right, Senator Wagner.
Mr. President, I have a report from the Committee on Rules.
All right, Secretary Reed received the report from the Committee on Rules.
From the Committee on Rules, Senate Resolution Number 47, Special Order Calendar. Be it resolved by the Senate of the Legislature of Alabama that immediately upon the adoption of this resolution, the following business in the order set forth below shall be the special and paramount order of business for the 21st legislative day, taking precedence over the regular order of business or any pending or unfinished business. Introduction of bills, House messages, reports from standing committees, motions and resolutions. On page 29 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 70 by Senator Albritton regarding the Coalition Against Domestic Violence. On page 30, Senate Bill number 69 by Senator Albritton relating to the Children First Trust Fund. On page 31, Senate Bill number 68 by Senator Albritton relating to state employees. On page 32, Senate Bill number 66 by Senator Albritton regarding supplemental appropriations. On page 31, Senate Bill number 67 by Senator Albritton relating to the State General Fund. On page 4, Senate Bill number 116 by Senator Gavan regarding the Alabama On-Site Wastewater Board. On page 42, Senate Bill number 258 by Senator Kelly relating to commercial driver's licenses. On page 20, House Bill 127 by Representative Pettis relating to crimes and offenses. On page 11, House Bill number 10 by Representative Pringle relating to crimes and offenses. On page 45, Senate Bill 207 by Senator Hatcher relating to the Interstate Compact for Dietitians. On page 12, House Bill 168 by Representative Woods relating to crimes and offenses. On page 41, Senate Bill 266 by Senator Livingston relating to motor vehicles. On page 10, House Bill 42 by Representative Givens regarding the Sound of Freedom Act. On page 22, House Bill 156 by Representative Robertson relating to candidates for municipal offices. On page 5, Senate Bill 138 by Senator Gudger regarding the Plumbers and Gas Fitters Examining Board. On page 37, House Bill 161 by Representative Moore relating to crimes and offenses. On page 51, House Bill 2 by Representative Chestnut relating to the Dallas County Board of Registrars.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move the Senate adopt the report from the Committee on Rules using the short roll call.
Mr. President, I want to speak to the motion.
All right, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Wagner. I'm going to dialogue if I can do that with my colleague. He's got something he wants somebody he wants to recognize
Yeah.
and a point he wants to make. So, Senator Chambliss, I'm going to yield some time to you.
Well, all right. Hold on. You got the mic. Senator Chambliss, you're recognized. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the recognition. And Senator, thank you for your ability to get up here and talk about the calendar and the things that we're going to do today. And, the things that we do are important in here. And the funding, obviously today's budget day, so there's going to be a lot of discussion about the budget, what we spend our money on, and that sort of thing. And one of the vision, and we have a group that's up here from today from Alabama Public that's being recognized by Alabama Public Television. And as you all know, they have the 30-minute recap and then the weekend review at the end of the week. And for me, as someone who is a detail-oriented person, I really love the format of that show because it allows us to go into detail and it's uncut and they don't try to cut out this part or that part to make the story. It is whatever you say. And they do that with both sides of the aisle, and that's very important. And it's very important that we as a legislature continue to fund Alabama Public Television for that and many other things that they do that are good for our state. One of the things that they do on an annual basis is recognize young heroes. And those are young people that are thriving in our state and thriving in their education and their goals and where they're going, despite some circumstances, some difficulties that they've been through. But once again, we had the dinner last night and was able to go and meet these young people. And I am constantly encouraged in my position when I meet and we get to meet these type groups from time to time of young people, and it gives me hope in our future, that our future is bright. Certainly we do have challenges, certainly there are problems, but you know what? There have always been problems. There's always been challenges. And in times of difficulty, young people like this rise to the occasion. We always have, I believe that we always will, and these young people give me faith that that will be the case. So, since it's budget day and things that we're dealing with today, fund different things across the state. This is one that I feel strongly about, and I know that this body does, and the House as well, because we continue to fund it, and we just appreciate what you all do. For just participating in this process, because it's very, very important. And hopefully one of you will catch a passion and become involved in policy or government or become a senator, not real soon, but sometime when we decide to move on. But anyway, just how there are really, really good things that we do with our budget, and APT and the Young Heroes Awards is one of those things. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for allowing me to dialogue with you on this very, very important budget matter. And if there's ever anything I can do to continue to assist you in your endeavor this morning, just let me know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Chambliss. Also want to recognize, former State Representative Jack Williams and all his work with this group. Senator Williams, good to have you in the gallery as well. Let's give him a round of applause. Representative Williams, my bad. All right, Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is Budget Day. It's a day where we have a lot of serious issues to contend with and discuss, and we're going to be talking on some of those for a while here while we work out some issues. One of the key parts of a budget and a budget process is transparency. And, we had an issue with that in committee when budgets came up. No one had seen anything that was in there. There was no transparency. A similar thing happened, if you recall, on the gaming bill. There were some transparency issues there. Some of the same players involved today were involved with that as well. So, when we have budgets of this amount of money, it's important that we have a transparent process where members, representing 35 different districts here in the state Senate can know what's going on, have an ability to look and delve into the numbers, and ask questions, look for things that are important to their districts. And so that's why I'm up here today. I think we're going to take a nice, long, microscopic look at all of these issues that are up today. And I'll just tell you, my goal right now is for us to address these next week. And so if I have to stay up here and talk to accomplish that, where we can address these bills after we've had a thorough review, then I'm more than willing to do that and be the one who takes the bullets on behalf of the entire chamber. Because I tell you folks, I have sensed some frustration with other members in this chamber about the budget process in terms of the general fund, about the transparency issues, about the fact that no one until this moment has laid eyes on this. I'm sitting here looking and wow, we've got, what we got here? 125-page bill. And then even the summary of that bill is 15 pages. And you have to be an accountant to be able to look at that and make sense of what's going on with that, unless or a math or budget expert. And I'm none of those, so I'm going to just be up here asking questions, looking thoroughly at this, making sure that we are very thorough as we go through this today and we check all the numbers out. So I see, as we're talking about the calendar here, we have several bills. Senate Bill 70, talking about domestic violence and appropriation for that, for operations, financial statement audit, quarterly end of the year reports. That's probably a good bill, but I still think we should talk about it equally. Then we've got one on the Children's First Trust Fund. That's another budget item I support. But this is a long game here we're playing, and so I think we'll probably talk about that a good bit as well. Then we get on to state employees, cost of living increase. Now that's a big one. That's important to my district. We have a lot of folks who are very interested in that. We want to talk thoroughly on that and make sure that folks are very aware about what's happening. Get some ins and outs on that and dialogue with the budget chairman be great. And so even if we just do the 2 hours on each of that's 6 hours right there, not counting any substitutes or amendments that I prepared to offer. Senate Bill 66, supplemental appropriations from the state general fund. That's a big one. That probably deserves at least 4 hours of discussion. And then we get into, and that's for the fiscal year ending in September 30th, 2024. So that's a good one to look at. Then we look at SB 67, appropriations for state general fund for executive, legislative, judicial agencies of the state, other functions of government, debt service, capital outlay for fiscal year ending in September 30th, 2025. I don't expect we're going to get to that one today, but if we do, we'll talk about it a good bit. And like I said, I think probably the best thing would be for us to just take that up after all members have had a chance to review it very thoroughly. After that, my good friend Senator Gavan's got one on there. I'd rather deal with it right now, Sam, Senator Gavan. I'd be happy to just carry all these bills over. And then when we get down to SB 116, I'd be fine to just sit down and let all those other bills that are just waiting there in purgatory, just let them start moving, and let us just address all these wonderful other bills that are on this. I think I probably could vote for all of these other bills on the page. Let's look and see what we got here. The Alabama On-Site Wastewater Board continued until October 1 with modifications to allow an organizational meeting to be considered a regular meeting of the board pursuant to the sunset law. So we've got a sunset bill there. Senators, SB 258, Senator Kelly, Kitchens, Jones, Sessions, Williams, Weaver, Chastain, and Elliott. Commercial driver's licenses updated to conform to federal motor carrier safety administration regulations. That's a good bill, looks like. HB 127, Representative Pettis, Treadaway, Bedsole, and Lee. Crimes and offenses unlawful to tamper with electronic monitoring device, crime created, penalties created. At this point, I'll say to our lovely folks in the gallery watching, you're getting a rare treat today, because this is only the second time I've ever had to come up here and decide to talk all day. So consider yourselves either lucky or unlucky, because I'm usually pretty good, go along, get along kind of guy, but when I get pushed a little too far and not being able to see things that are very important to the state of Alabama, and there's no transparency, then I'm up here. So, y'all feel free. You want to take a restroom break or a coffee break, there's not really anything going to be going on. It's just going to be a little talking and debating going on up here for quite a while. So, if y'all come to watch the legislative process, sometimes, unfortunately, this is what it's all about. Sometimes it's all about slowing and stopping things that are not good for the state of Alabama, having some thorough deliberation, some thorough discussions about all of that. Sometimes democracy can be very, very slow, sometimes painfully discussed for hours and hours on end, different things that were important to them. I've been pretty lucky. I haven't had to. So grab your popcorn, or take a break, or get some coffee, whatever you'd like to do, or you could listen to my stories. Now, I can't promise that I can be as entertaining as some of my colleagues on this side of the aisle, but I'll try my best not to bore you to tears. But I will say this, when we're talking about budgets and numbers, it's very hard to liven that up and make that interesting. So I hope you forgive me if it's a little dry and boring and we get in some numbers.
Got a very important drink.
What?
Diet Mountain Dew.
Oh, yes. I see our Lieutenant Governor, our presiding officer, our President of the Senate's prepared this morning. I think he can go the distance with the Diet Mountain Dew. So I think we're set to go. And certainly, y'all need anything, y'all have at it. Get your coffee, get your Diet Mountain Dew. So back to the calendar. Let's see, I believe I was at Representative Pringle, HB 10, Crimes and Offenses to further provide for the crime of manslaughter. I'd be interested to hear what that's all about. I believe that might have to do with the fentanyl crisis.
It's going to be at least 45 minutes to an hour, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Good. Well, the calendar, we're going to vote on the calendar in a minute.
Okay. I've got to run down.
Yeah.
If I got about 45 minutes, we'll run down, so I'll be right back.
Yeah, you good. Let's see, SB 207, Senators Hatcher, Jones, Smitherman, Butler, Allen Gavan, this has got everybody on it. Melson, Sessions, Carnley, Bell, Kelly, Shellnut, Kitchen, Stutz, Elliott, Roberts, Wagoner, Orr, Stewart, Coleman, Madison, and Beasley. That's got a good mix, bipartisan. That would be the Interstate Compact for dietitians. That's a bill that I'm looking at. It's one of our compact bills. I chair the Senate Military Veterans and Public Safety Committee, and that's a good committee that supports our military. I know our Lieutenant Governor is very supportive of that, and a lot of these came from the Military Stability Commission and these interstate compacts. Let me tell you about those. Those compacts are there primarily, the reason we're interested in those is so that when our military men and women come into the state, their spouses who are licensed in different fields around the United States, they can immediately begin practicing working in their field while they are waiting to be licensed here in the state of Alabama. So that's a great thing. It's going to help these dietitians, and this is just one of probably 20 or 30 different fields that we've been working on over the past several years. So that'll be a good one. Let's look on to SB 207. That's coming up. Interstate Compact, that's the one I just said. HB 168. It's by Representative Woods and a good 20 or 30 House member co-sponsors dealing with crimes and offenses. It raises the maximum age for offenses involving obscene materials with depictions of children, authorizes punitive damages for victims of those offenses, directs the Board of Education. SB 266 is next. Motor vehicles, maximum weight on state roads further provided. Senators Livingston, Gudger, Shelnut, Butler, Weaver, Carnley, Williams, Bell, Elliott, Price, Allen, Sessions, Stutz, Chambliss, Chastain, Melson, and Albritton. Could be interested in hearing about that from our majority leader. See, next we have HB 42, Representative Givens. The Sound of Freedom Act. Heard a lot about that. Human trafficking, a minimum sentence of life in prison where the victim is a minor. Good bill. Then we have 156, Representative Robertson. Candidates for municipal offices exempt from certain FCPA reporting if contributions and expenditures remain below the threshold level. So that'll be a good, we could be able to hear a little bit about some campaign finance action thrown in here. Then we have Senator Gudger, SB 138, Plumbers and Gas Fitters Examining Board, continued until October 1, 2028 without modification pursuant to the Sunset Law. So that's another sunset bill with our good friend Senator Gudger. 161, Representative Moore, Woods, Butler, and Bedsole. Crimes and offenses prohibits a person from creating a private image without consent. Representative Drummond, HB 65, Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, regulation of retail sale of certain tobacco products, electronic nicotine delivery. So that's a good 4-page calendar of bills. Certainly not 41 like we dealt with the other day, but that's a good, healthy number of bills. And sure would have been nice if we could have just started with Senator Gavan's bill on on-site wastewater and just worked our way through all these wonderful bills that do a lot for the state of Alabama while we were able to delve into some of these budget items. So how long have I got on the calendar? 10 seconds. All right, we'll just let it go. Ask for the long roll.
Okay. Secretary, call the long roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chastain. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens, Mr. Livingston, Mr. Melson, Mr. Orr, Mr. Price, Mr. Reed, Mr. Roberts, Mr. Sessions, Mr. Shelnut, Mr. Singleton, Mr. Smitherman, Mr. Stewart, Mr. Stutz, Mr. Wagner, Ms. Weaver, Mr. Williams,
31 ayes, 1 nay. The special order calendar is adopted.
Yeah.
All right, now move on to introduction of bills.
Well,
Senate Bill number 317 by Senator Smitherman relating to crimes and offenses.
Mr. President.
Is referred to the Judiciary Committee.
Senator Jones.
request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to crimes and offenses, to add Article 4B of Chapter 6 of Title 13A, commencing with Section 13A 685 to the Code of Alabama 1975, to provide that it is unlawful for a member of the clergy to commit certain sex acts with an individual under 19 years of age or a protected person under 22 years of age under certain circumstances, to provide for penalties, and in connection therewith would have as its purpose or effect the requirement of a new or increased expenditure of local funds within the meaning of Section 111.05 of the Constitution of Alabama 2000. Senate Bill number 318 by Senator Coleman relating to elections is referred to the Judiciary Committee.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to elections, to amend Sections 17.621, 17.93, 17.13.22, and 17.14.31 Code of Alabama 1975 to revise deadlines to qualify for a general election to accommodate national political party conventions. Senate Bill number 319 by Senator Albritton relating to state agencies is referred to the Committee on.
Request the title be read, Mr. President.
Secretary, read the title.
Relating to state agencies, to prohibit state agencies from settling claims against the state agency unless the agency has sufficient funding to pay the amount prescribed in the settlement agreement, and to require a state agency that lacks sufficient funding to pay the full amount of a settlement agreement to provide certain notice to certain public officials. Senate Bill number 320 by Senator Weaver relating to crimes and offenses is referred to the Judiciary Committee.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
Secretary, read the title.
Relating to crimes and offenses, to amend Section 13A 12-192 Code of Alabama 1975 to provide for the offense of trafficking in obscene material and to provide penalties for violations. Senate Bill number 321 by Senator Barfoot relating to crimes and offenses is referred to the Judiciary Committee.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
relating to crimes and offenses to amend sections 122532 and 13A12211 Code of Alabama 1975 to further provide for unlawful distribution of a controlled substance, to establish that the unlawful sale of a controlled substance is a violent offense and not subject to the presumptive sentencing guidelines, and to amend sections 13A12250 and 13A12270 Code of Alabama 1975 to further provide for sentencing enhancements relating to the unlawful distribution of a controlled substance on or near school campus and within a 3-mile radius of a public housing project, to add section 13A12211.1 to the Code of Alabama 1975 to create the crime of unlawful distribution of marijuana and to create penalties, and to make non-substantive technical revisions to update the existing code language to the current style. Senate Bill number 322 by Senator Chambliss,
Mr. President,
relating to the Department of Corrections, is referred to the Committee on County and Municipal Government.
Mr. President, I request the title be read at length.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to the Department of Corrections to amend sections 14.1, 1.5, and 14.14 Code of Alabama 1975 to rename the position of Deputy Commissioner for Prisoner Rehabilitation, to provide that the Commissioner of the Department of Corrections may appoint exempt and unclassified employees necessary to carry out the operations of the department, to amend section 29.220 Code of Alabama 1975 to further provide for the responsibilities of the Joint Prison Oversight Committee, and to amend section 362610 as last amended by Act 2023-538, 2023 regular session, Code of Alabama 1975, to establish the number of unclassified employees allowed to be employed by the Department of Corrections. Senate Bill number 323 by Senator Price relating to taxation is referred to the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry.
Mr. President, I request the title be read at length.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to taxation, to prohibit counties from distributing certain tax proceeds to certain entities.
All right, any other bills? All right, next move on to House messages. Oh, hold on one second before we do that. Senator Allen, do you want to be recognized?
Yes, sir. I've got a resolution.
All right, we'll get to that next. We're on House messages, and then we got to do committee reports and resolutions. All right.
Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill number 56 by Representative Bolton and others relating to crimes and offenses is referred to the Committee on Veterans and Military Affairs. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill number 302 by Representative Kyle, proposing an amendment to the Constitution relating to the Franklin County school system, is referred to the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives originated and passed the following engrossed House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate. House Bill number 232 by Representative Holsey regarding the practice of physical therapy is referred to the Health Care Committee. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following engrossed House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate. House Bill number 327 by Representative Baker relating to geologic storage is referred to the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill number 380 by Representative Lovern relating to income tax credits is referred to Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives originated and passed the following engrossed House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate. House Bill number 330 by Representative Woods and others relating to institutions of higher education is referred to the Committee on Education Policy. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Did y'all get House Bill 330? 330. Yeah, good. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives originated and passed the following engrossed House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate. House Bill number 259 by Representative Wood, D., and others relating to elections is referred to the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives originated and passed the following engrossed House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate. House Bill number 73 by Representative Pettis and others relating to ad valorem taxes is referred to the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill number 324 by Representative Reynolds and others relating to emergency medical transport is referred to the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill number 388 by Representatives Standridge and Shedd with notice and proof relating to Blount County is referred to the Committee on Local Legislation. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill number 351 by Representative Treadway and Almond relating to law enforcement officers is referred to the Committee on Education Policy. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following engrossed House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate. House Bill number 47 by Representative Ensler relating to sales and use taxes is referred to the Committee on Finance, Taxation, Education. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following engrossed House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate. House Bill number 136 by Representative Simpson relating to child custody is referred to the Committee on Children and Youth Health. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following engrossed House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate. House Bill number 350 by Representative Faulkner and others creating the Alabama Uniform Commercial Real Estate Receivership Act is referred to the Committee on Fiscal Responsibility and Economic Development. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following engrossed House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate. House Bill number 352 by Representative Lee relating to juvenile courts is referred to the Committee on Finance, Taxation, General Fund. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives originated and passed the following engrossed House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate. House Bill number 375 by Representative Shaver and others relating to vessels is referred to the Committee on Transportation and Energy. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
All right, this concludes House messages. Now move on to committees. Secretary, call the first committee.
From the Committee on Finance and Taxation Education, Senate Bill number 107 receives a favorable report by a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays. From Finance and Taxation Education, Senate Bill number 94 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays.
All right,
Mr. President.
Senator Chambliss.
I move the title be read at length.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to taxation to provide an exemption from the state sales and use tax for honeybees and their byproducts. From Finance and Taxation Education, Senate Bill number 278 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, I request the title be read at length.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to public education to amend section 16.1 as last amended by Act 2023-352, 2023 Regular Session, Code of Alabama 1975, to add Chapter 1A to Title 16 of the Code of Alabama 1975, creating the Public Education Employee Injury Compensation Program, the Public Education Employee Injury Compensation Trust Fund, and the Public Education Employee Injury Compensation Board, and to provide injured on the job. House Bill number 280 from Finance and Taxation Education receives a favorable report by a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, I request the title be read at length.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to public K through 12 education to amend section 1640A3 Code of Alabama to require research-based instruction on fentanyl prevention and drug poisoning awareness in grades 6 through 12. From Finance and Taxation Education, House Bill number 187 receives a favorable report by a vote of 16 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, I request the title be read at length.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
House Bill 187. Relating to income taxes to amend section 4018-24.4 Code of Alabama 1975 to extend the due date for an Alabama electing pass-through entity to make the election to be taxed as an electing pass-through entity.
These bills received a second reading and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Committee on Confirmations, Senate Confirmation number 107, appointing Wayne Allen Carroll to the Alabama Securities Commission, receives a favorable report by a vote of 13 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate confirms Wayne Allen Carroll to the Securities Commission used in previous role. No objection.
All right, any objection? All right, hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton,
Yeah.
Mr. Williams.
$32 ayes, 0 nays. Wayne Allen Carroll is confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmation, Senate Confirmation number 106, appointing Christina Kuklinski to the Alabama Securities Commission, receives a favorable report by a vote of 13 ayes and 0 nays.
Senator Weaver.
I move that the Senate confirms Christina Kuklinski to the Securities Commission used in previous role. No objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. Christina Kuklinski is confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmation, Senate Confirmation number 61, appointing Bobby Humphrey to the Alabama Surface Mining Commission, receives a favorable report by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays.
Senator Weaver.
I move that the Senate confirms Bobby Humphrey to the Surface Mining Commission used in previous role. No objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
All right, 33 ayes, 0 nays. Bobby Humphrey's confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmation, Senate Confirmation number 62, appointing Barbara Manuel to the Institute for the Deaf and Blind Board of Trustees, receives a favorable report by a vote of 10 ayes and 0 nays.
Senator Weaver.
I move that the Senate confirms Barbara Manuel to the Alabama Institute for Deaf and Blind Board of Trustees used in previous role. No objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. Barbara Manuel's confirmed. Secretary, call next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmations, Senate Confirmation Number 105, appointing Kim Bearlair to the Real Estate Commission, receives a favorable report by a vote of 13 ayes and 0 nays.
Senator Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank the body for working with me on this confirmations process. I know that Senator from Jefferson County and I have worked long and hard to go through a lot of these confirmations and to create a process that is something that we know will be the best for the body, and we just want to be sure that the people that we are confirming are the people who are the best people for these positions. And so we've had a lot of dialogue with members of the confirmation committee just to be sure that we are performing the best service for the people of Alabama, because these boards and commissions are really, really important. They do a lot of great work for the people of Alabama and for the state of Alabama. So, we've been working really hard to make sure that we've had a lot of good confirmations come up in this process. We've had probably about 6 or 7 confirmations meetings now. They've been really successful, and here I am. I'm the new chair of confirmation, so I've been really excited in the process, and that we've been able to have such a smooth process so far. I know that Senator Chambliss has been the confirmations chair before me, and he did a lot of good things, and I just want you to know how much I appreciate all that you did to set that up and help get me going in this process.
Mr. President, may I have dialogue?
You're recognized for dialogue.
Well, Madam Chair, I appreciate the work that you've continued to do on this committee. It's one of those committees that is very, very important to our state. And when it works well, nobody really knows about it. And obviously, that's what the way that you have taken it this session. And when it's known across the state, there's a real problem. This committee generally works behind the scenes, obviously in public, but through a public process. But it's not certainly not one that gets the headlines most of the time, but certainly very, very important work for this state. So I guess what's interesting to me is just as different chairmen come in and rotate in and out, we all put our own style on it. So just wondering, are there things that maybe you think or y'all have done a little bit differently than we've done in the past?
I think it's been a great process, and with that, Mr. President, I'd like to move that the Senate confirms Kim Bearlair to the Real Estate Commission of Alabama using previous role with no objection.
Sorry, Senator Elliott and I were up here discussing your comments. So, all right, using previous role, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
35 ayes, 0 nays. Kim Bearlair is confirmed. Secretary, call the next confirmation.
From the Committee on Confirmation, Senate Confirmation Number 104, appointing Juanita Taggart Jones to the Real Estate Commission, receives a favorable report by a vote of 13 ayes and 0 nays.
Senator Weaver.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate confirms Juanita Taggart Jones to the Real Estate Commission of Alabama using previous role with no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
All right, 35 ayes, 0 nays. The confirmation's confirmed. All right, this concludes confirmations. Before we do that, let me recognize some special guests in the gallery. First guest, or a guest of Senator Albritton, Leadership Atmore. If y'all could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. All right, one more special guest. I want to recognize the guest of Senator Elliott, Senator Albritton, and Senator Figures, Baldwin County District Attorney Bob Wilters. If you could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. All right, Secretary, call next committee.
From the Committee on County and Municipal Government, House Bill number 166 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 7 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, I request the title be read at length.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
earn is going to be less. We increase rather in interest rates when we showing a growth in is declining. And then when we look at the economic factors, in particularly the last few days, we've seen the markets that have been declining substantially. I say all that to say this. While we have been blessed and we have more money than we've ever had before, those conditions are not going to last. In addition to that, I'd like to point out that we as a state have lots of obligations that we have already voted on, that we've already put out there. Those continue to be matters dealing with mental health, matters dealing with prisons, and also matters dealing with the new state house that we're under construction right now. These are funds that have not been budgeted for, and in some cases, I've already stated from this podium, these have also, we can't borrow any money on it because of many other factors beyond our control. So we're faced with circumstances that, in my mind, throws caution to the aspect that we need to be very careful about how we manage these blessings of resources that we have. Now, I would suggest, ladies and gentlemen, that I know that I'm not the brightest bulb in the light locker, all right? I understand that. But I do take my job seriously. We've gotten to the point that we have been in economically because we've been cautious, we've been careful, we haven't spent every dime, we try to control how we deal with matters, and that's what I've been trying to do here. Now, I also suggest that I have a penchant. I know two things. Number one is I know I can't make everybody happy. And number two, I know I have a penchant to make a lot of people mad. This job seems to enhance the latter. But I would suggest that we're doing a job here that we can accomplish all that we need to do. And I know that we've got issues here that people are not pleased with. I'm doing the best that we can. Now with that, I'd like to go ahead and move forward with SB 70 unless we have further discussions. SB 70 itself deals with an appropriation of $169,633 going to the Coalition Against Domestic Violence, typical bill that we've normally had. If there's no further questions, I'd move for final passage using the previous roll without objection.
Mr. President, I'd like to be recognized. Thank you.
You've got the.
I moved for final passage.
All right, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. All right. Any objection?
I want to speak to it.
Okay, you want to speak? All right, you're recognized.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I just want to chat about this a little bit. I'm back. Our friends in the gallery, I see, have cleared out a little bit. Just want to discuss this bill. We've got a few things being worked on. I'm glad we're moving toward a better place with a little more transparency, a little more involvement from the members. So that's always a good thing. Just looking at the bill and the calendar here. Let's see here. We're looking at this legislation, SB 70, Coalition Against Domestic Violence and appropriations there. Let's see here. This will be in the calendar. So we're looking at page 29 on the calendar here, just to see a few details about this legislation. Appropriation of $169,633 from the State General Fund to the Coalition Against Domestic Violence for fiscal year ending September 30th. Require quarterly and end-of-the-year performance reports. Would appropriate $169,633 from State General Fund. Okay. Coalition Against Domestic Violence. love to learn more about the work that they do. When Senator Albritton is able to come back and dialogue a little bit, I think we have several copies of the bills here. So I'm looking through to see if we don't have that particular bill here. But as we work through the budget process, you know, there are 5 bills here in this package, one dealing with this domestic violence coalition, one dealing with Children's First, one dealing with state employees, then the supplemental and the state general fund, which the big bill, as we call it, which includes executive, legislative, judicial, state, other functions of government, debt service, capital outlay. That's got all the stuff. And then we've got everything else on the calendar. I'm looking here through the numbers, and I'm seeing that we have a comparison sheet from last year, and it looks like we end up in a place to where there's a pretty good, healthy budget there. The governor recommended almost $3.3 billion in her recommended 2025 fiscal year budget. The substitute is a little over 3.36 to be exact, and the Senate floor substitute has grown a little even more, 3.37. So we've grown about $74 million. Thank you. $74 million over the governor's recommended budget, and then out of committee, we've gone up a little over $9 million from the committee substitute to the Senate floor substitute. So we're working with, 3.3, almost 3.4 billion there in the total budget. And my good colleague, Senator Kelly, just brought me a copy of the Coalition Against Domestic Violence legislation. Just looking through here, it talks about the operations plan, the audited financial statement prior to release of funds, quarterly and end of the year performance reports. Those performance reports, we need to do that with more folks, I think. Don't you think, Senator Chastain? My colleague wants to dialogue with me.
Mr. President, may I be recognized?
Yeah, Senator Chastain, you are.
Yes, Senator, I'm glad that you were able to get the information that you needed regarding the domestic violence line item in here. And I would hope that you would also be in favor of going ahead and supporting this funding. We've got this before us. The chairman's tied up at this time right on this. If you could help me in explaining to me some of your concerns, Senator. If there are no more questions, move for final passage.
I want to continue speaking on that legislation. I just yielded for discussion, no motions. That was a good one, though, Senator Chastain.
There was an opportunity.
That's right. I want to continue. I think I've got a good probably 55 minutes left on my hour. Is that right? Somewhere in there. Yeah, these performance audit reports. Those are important. It's a pretty straightforward bill, isn't it? Not a lot really that you could talk about. Not one of those easy bills to talk on. Talks about the operations during the fiscal year. Got to be forwarded to the Director of Finance. Intent to release funds following receipt of those reports. Quarterly reports. Should be made to the Director of Finance stating the work accomplished and services provided, the cost of accomplishing the work, and providing the services, citing meaningful measures of program effectiveness and cost as required for state agencies. Director of Finance shall forward a copy of all required reports to Legislative Council in time. There's a Legislative Council in there. That's good. Senator Chastain, do you have again, I'm yielding for discussion, no motions.
Well, again, I hope that you are in support of this line item in the budget that we're talking about right here, because I certainly think we all support funding our domestic violence.
I agree. I'm so supportive that I want to just keep talking about it.
Well, since you have so much support for it, I know there's plenty of time to talk about other issues today, and if we could go ahead and be able to pass this piece of legislation, we will continue to hear from you throughout the day on other issues that you have with the budget until hopefully we can find some common ground here that would satisfy the issues that you have with the budget, and we can move forward. I know the chairman and the committee's put a lot of work into giving us a good budget here with the funding that we have. And I think they've done an outstanding job of making sure that we protect the resources and don't spend everything we have, because we know that we're going to have some challenges in the days and the years to come. So I just appreciate the work that the chairman has done with the committee. Mr. Chairman, I will step aside and let
Senator Jones, you've got the mic. What do you want to do with it before you leave?
I'll yield my time without losing my time in place. No discussion, no motions to Senator Albritton.
Does that mean I have to filibuster my own bill again?
If you accept that, I mean, so. Yeah.
You want to take over?
Mr. President.
Pass it forward.
Senator Reed.
Mr. President, I'd like to be recognized.
Oh, of course. I'm sorry.
You are.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, I want to compliment you on the work you've already been doing here. We've got several other things to go through. I think that as this process is one of debate and discussion and review and the like, we're in the midst of that at the moment, and you're well aware of that. So if you would continue with a little bit of your explanation related to these topics, then I would yield, Mr. President. For dialogue, I will hold the microphone and yield for dialogue with my colleague.
All right. Thanks, Senator Reed.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it. So, this domestic violence bill that we're on, this comes not from taxpayer money or anything. This comes from other monies. Usually it's from lawsuit settlements or other matters such as that comes in, wherein there's an agreement that monies will go for a particular purpose. And this SB 70 is one that makes it go directly to the Coalition Against Domestic Violence. So that's how that works. So the next thing that we will have coming up on SB 69, which is not before us, but I will discuss that briefly as we go into it. This is a similar bill as 70 in that it is funds that's going. The recipient beneficiary there is Children First Trust Fund, programs from that. This bill has an appropriation of $39 million, $531,128 from the Children's First Fund for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2025 to the entities. And then the bill going on is a few pages long about the other subsidiary beneficiaries and specifies the uses and things that are going in on those. Usually those bills go in without difficulty or without contest or even without discussion because they come through every single year. But those bills evidently have been caught up in the other controversies coming in along the other where the money is. I would also indicate on your spreadsheets as you're coming along, I think you'll find 2 or 3 that's there. One dealing with the supplemental and the changes, if you'll notice along the columns. And that through the process, you'll see what the governor recommended in the budget that came through last February. And then you have the substitute that was offered and accepted in the committee, which at the appropriate time we'll have that removed, and we'll have the floor substitute, which is also at your desk. And it shows in each column the amount that was there, and then further down it shows Not only that, but it'll change the, or indicates what the differences are between the 1 and the 2. That's to be able to, so that you can clearly identify what changes have occurred and not occurred. The same thing is true with the general fund. And you'll notice that there's a few more changes there, but most of these were movements from one to the other, or some additions and things such as that. There are not a whole lot of changes involved with those matters. Now, I want to share with y'all, not much, hopefully, but since most of you are so excited about this and haven't gone to sleep yet, we'll try to make sure that you find your way to that end. I want to point out, in many cases, what we've done with some of these agencies. There's been some talk about how there's been some cuts. I want to emphasize that there has not been a single cut made. As I mentioned, this is the largest budget we've ever had. We are meeting the demands from last year, and in most every case, there's been a plus up on most every item. We have also taken a look, and will be taking a look, and I hope to be able to recreate those instances coming up this next elongated or extended budget hearings, so that we can hear from these agencies in a means of where and how we're spending the funds. I'm not sure that y'all are aware of the amount of growth in the budgets that we've had, but we have substantially increases on this. I don't know exactly how much we started with back in 2015 or 2020, but I believe that we have more than, well, I won't say more, but we have almost doubled our revenue and also doubled the amount of money that we're sending to the agencies. So we're going to be going in this next few months to try to draw in and pull in the means whereby we can have a means to discover how those monies are being spent. I think we'll find in many cases a lot of that went into brick and mortar, construction of crisis centers, construction of schools, construction and repairs to the various sundry state and county buildings. I think you'll find that there's been a lot of money that's been going into places where we have not appropriately funded those issues and those matters as much as we have. Now, I hope that's the case, but as we, when I was in the Navy, I was told that you get what you inspect, not what you expect. So asking for and obtaining some type of accountability or recognition or transparency on this will be the goal here. So those are some matters I hope to be able to move forward with. I also want to bring in points that we want to adjust with as far as where we're making some adjustments on some matters. But I'd like to also brag about some things that we've done in the past, in the last little while. We had a few years ago, the Forestry Commission came forward with a plan that was required for purchase of new equipment. Basically, it had to deal with forest fire fighting, which had to deal with the bulldozers. Many of their bulldozers were long past their life cycle. Not only that, but the equipment to haul them and the other attachments and such had far worn out their usefulness. In many cases, they couldn't even find parts for repairs. So with that plan that they provided, and also with the help of some federal funds, and also with the matters in which we watched and carefully appropriated the money, we were able to go in and we helped, and we were able to replace most all of those Caterpillars, and not just the bulldozers themselves, but also the trucks that were to haul them, and the trailers, and the accessories that went with them. In fact, we were able to go out and see several instances where all that was being accomplished. That's something we can be proud of to handle and to deal with. And this isn't the only example of that, where we have been able to help and move forward with instances and with agencies that needed equipment and repair. There was one instance where we could come in and we had to buy vehicles for Aaliyah and others, the motor pool systems and how those are rotated out. We've been made vast improvements in those areas. I think Senator has a...
Mr. President. Mr. President. Mr. President. Can I be recognized?
You're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, the one thing that I was able to sit on a conference call a few minutes here a while back and listen, and I think the one thing that shocked me was the only growth was the interest income and the monies we've got in the bank. But for that interest income, there have been no growth in the budget this year. And that's something that interest income is the one thing that surprised me, that I had no idea that's one thing we did. That's the only growth we had. And that was eye-opening that I never realized.
And if I might, Mr. President,
Senator Albritton.
I may be wrong. I'm not trying to jump in or jump anything along this line, but I would like to, unless I have an objection from the folks, I'd like to move this forward and renew my motion for adoption of SB 70 using previous role without objection.
Any objection? There is an objection. Couple of objections. Secretary Locke.
Well, we'll continue on. We'll get that clarified and come back if we need to on that line. Okay. May I renew the motion and call the long roll on that?
Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman-Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shellnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, no nays.
Senate Bill 70 by Senator Albritton passes. Clerk, call the next bill.
By 33 ayes, 0 nays.
33 ayes, no nays.
On page 30 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 69 by Senator Albritton regarding the Children First Trust Fund, BIR pending.
Mr. President,
Senator Albritton, you recognize.
move the BIR using previous rule without objection.
Any objection? Hearing none.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
33 ayes. BIR is adopted. 33 ayes, 0 nays. BIR on SB 69 is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 30 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 69 by Senator Albritton regarding the Children First Trust Fund.
Senator Albritton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Children's First Trust Fund. We're going to talk about that for a little bit now. As I mentioned, that's more than $39 million that will be going there, and the different programs that come under there. This comes from the tobacco settlement. I don't know if you all remember that or not, but some years ago, legal aspect came in, and if you look on page 4 of this bill, it has sections of where the money goes to and the recipients there that's involved. And again, this one usually is non-controversial that we go through, but I think I have a senator here that needs to comment. Senator?
I just got a comment to make, and I'm gonna give the members a little history lesson on this. When I served in the House back in 1998, I introduced a piece of legislation to do a constitutional amendment to entrust all the tobacco settlement money into a trust fund. That's one of the number one regrets I have here in Montgomery because of what took place in '98, and of course the decision was made not to do that. But just imagine for a moment if we had a trust fund set up in '98. How many billions of dollars that we will be sitting on today, and that's one of my regrets. And I just, it's a great program that, Mr. Chairman, that you're involved with here, taking care of children. But the side note is that we could have done much better if we have entrusted those dollars in a way that they'll be there for generations and generations to come. So thank you for your work you do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for that attempt. Did that bill not get passed? That trust fund did not get passed, huh? Well. That comment will go. The funds that's here, we'll continue talking for a moment, but I would call attention to the next bill that may be coming up, and that is SB 68. Now this has become almost a normal aspect. SB 68 is the cost of living increase for state employees, which would be a 2% pay increase for those with the state. And I think, I may be wrong, we've done this, we did this last year too, I think, and I think we did one previous to that. I think we've been able to provide our state employees almost a continual pay increase along these lines, which is huge, I think, for them. It may not be able to reach the full level of what the inflation is, but it's better than what we have done in the past. There are many gaps, many holes where state employees were not able, because of revenue limitations, of what we could do for them. So I'm glad that we got that moving along also. Okay. I would suggest that we take a look also while we're sitting here and discussing and going through matters, taking a look at the spreadsheets again as to where we are, what's happening with the different monies that we have, and how many things that we as a legislature have improved on. My colleague Senator Allen had discussed about his previous years in the House. I also was there with him, not in '98, I'm not that old, but we have been able to do a lot of things differently from then. And I think my colleague across had some other comments.
Senator Bell, you recognize.
I think the one thing, even on the previous bill, that I liked is the audit component before the money's released. That the agencies have to be audited before this money is released on the previous bill.
Yes, sir. There is, exactly.
SB 70, and I think that keeps, because it's the people's money, so that keeps a check and balances on that, make sure we're not giving some money somewhere that's not using it appropriately or misusing it. And that's the one thing I like seeing that in some of the bills that we have.
That's correct. And that's one of the things, again, that we as a legislature have done much more of. If you read through the budget, you will find that there's many, many instances where reports are required of the agencies to the legislature on the different funds, how they've handled, what's handled, and those type matters in order to keep check on how the monies are funded. That's one oversight. You do that by requiring reports. And while that is a fairly common, it wasn't used here very much. Now we're putting those in more and more.
And then going through the spreadsheet of all the agencies or all the different groups that's getting money. Maybe I'm just a nerd, but is a lot of them you don't understand.
I've heard other adjectives used.
Well, I have too, especially by Senator Gudger every once in a while.
Yes, sir.
But looking at the names of a lot of these organizations and places that are getting the money, and having to look them up, what do they do, what's their function? There's so many things that do function as a part of government with government money, and is holding those agencies and those groups in checks and balances. And I think that's something important we got to continue doing, and making sure that the group that's getting the money is using the money appropriately, and it's a function that is the state. It's a function that should be something partially funded by us, but also maintain the audit of those functions and make sure that they're doing appropriate money. And I thought I had it up here, but I think I left it over at my desk. But some of the groups, especially through the tourism, I'm good. I'm gonna use somebody else's spreadsheet. But when you start reading on the agricultural industries part, and we've got a great ag and industries person in charge of all that. Ain't nobody better than Rick Pate does a great job over there. But you're looking at the Agricultural Museum Board, the North Alabama Agriplex, Geneva County Agplex Arena, the Resource Conservation Development Program, Sweet Grown Alabama Program. And that Sweet Grown Alabama is unbelievable, especially when you see the farmers markets in your district and the things that are grown in your district being sold in your district, but also the Alabama products being grown. And having them here in our state, the production of those by these hardworking farmers and the families that are producing those, but it keeps our farmers going, it keeps the economy going, and it's keeping state money here in the state. And those are the things I like looking through there and seeing what those programs are, and then got to rely on Google and Google the programs, and it tells you what it is. You read it and then look at it, and having the Alabama checkbook at times and be able to look back at some of the monies going to those places and what it produces, what it provides. And that's the one thing, especially when we have the Alabama Day here on the Sweet Grown Alabama, and going over there and getting to eat these products, the Red Diamond tea that's produced in my district. They ain't nobody better than Mr. Byron, and they have the big display. We have the Coca-Cola, the Pepsi-Cola. They won't let the beer products or the bourbon products come out. We've got some good those here in Alabama. For some reason, they don't let them over on the lawn over here at the governor's mansion. So those are the things we don't see. But then last night we have the tourism bash, and going through there and finding out the different restaurants, the different hotels, the different things we have here in Alabama that you just don't realize or don't see. But for going around to each corner of that and how they're set up and getting a sample of some of the good chefs we have, some of the unbelievable food that it's just amazing. It's all right here in Alabama around us, and you see portions of that funded by some of this stuff, and that's the thing I enjoy seeing.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think you also see that as we talked about, not just the implementation and the funding of the important services and aspects of the state, but also the oversight that's coming in. I believe we're beginning to see a difference. I think we're beginning to see Alabama move forward in ways that we've never been able to before because of the good work of the agencies, because of their dedication. We have people that's been in these agencies not just for decades.
Senator Albritton, if I could, let's pause for just a second. We've got some special guests up in the gallery. If we could, we want to recognize the leadership. Barber County as the guest of Senator Beasley here. Along with them, there's Ann Blondheim, the Director of Leadership, Barber County, as well as the bride of how many years? A few years anywhere of Senator Beasley, Rebecca Beasley. She's the editor of the Clayton Record. If y'all could stand and let's give them a round of applause. 42 years, by the way. That was the report for the number of years that she's endured, Senator Beasley. Thanks, Senator Beasley. Senator Albritton.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I was so eloquently expounding upon the good benefits that we have provided through the state of Alabama and how I think we're trying to catch up with matters that were beyond us. You know, it wasn't too long ago that some of our agencies were still dealing with duplicate and triplicate paper copies. Now, going digital is expensive, especially if you try to go backwards and make it digital. And that's what we're trying to do in many cases with our agencies. That's difficult. And some of our agencies, up until fairly recently, saw no need for that. We've made significant progress there in bringing us. It's been said that Alabama is being brought kicking and screaming into the 20th century.
We're bad about that.
Yeah, and someone said, well, we're in the 21st century. Well, you can do one step at a time. So we're making the progress that we need to make. We're trying to accomplish those things through using the proper principles that's there that have proven worthwhile and also effective. For instance, do you remember when the last time the state in any capacity suffered proration? Do you remember the year of that? You don't?
Mm-mm.
You were, okay.
I'm a couple years younger than you. Not many, but a couple.
2011.
Okay.
2011 was the last year that where proration was experienced. We have not suffered from that. However, that was because during that tenure between 11 and 15, that where changes were made in our processes, in our oversights, in our matters where we were literally broke in several different ways. That's when we had to borrow money from the trust fund.
But if we, knowing what the revenues coming in are currently, if we're not paying attention, even though we got some savings accounts that are producing some good interest, if we're still not careful in the future, we could end up being right back where we were. And I think that's why it's important for the audits, and it's important to be understandable what the budget process is. And you can't fund everything, but try to fund the right things and keep our state going forward at the same time. It's like the one thing, you hear from people about the ports. The ports and what's happened there in Baldwin County, Mobile County, the ports coming in. I've got industrial parks that will tell you in my district up in St. Clair County, Talladega County, Shelby County, it will tell you it has saved those companies money because they're getting the stuff shipped to the port here in Alabama versus Tampa versus somewhere else and having it shipped on 18-wheelers. It's saving them on freight costs, getting stuff to those ports here, and it just makes a big difference for these companies. And that's one thing, thank goodness with our Richard Shelby, and Senator Shelby has done a great job on that. And in the past, but for some of that's bettering Alabama. That's, lessening the cost, the burden of our manufacturers here, our companies that are here that are having to get product shipped in mass quantities, and these cargo containers coming in. I know we had one that talked to me in Pell City, and they bought 3 containers, and they told me how many thousands of dollars it saved by shipping it here and having it come into the port of Alabama versus going to Tampa. Just that little bit saved them a lot of money, and I think that just keeps our state going in the right direction.
You're correct. Lots of foresight, people with foresight have been able to come in and do some things that are important to do. Now, we've still got lots of issues dealing with this, as we know. We've got railroads that need repair and improvement, bridges. We need more of those. Roads, we got more of those. Our schools need, in many cases, need improvement. There's lots of things that we still lack that we're trying to resolve and get to. We're trying to investigate and find and deal with those matters as we can. And I tell you, it's not easy when you're listening to everybody, and everybody has a good plan, and everybody has a sob story. And wading through, and for us to have to take all that in, from the county level to the municipal level to the state level, all of that comes and rests here upon us. And that's where we have to address this in as much reasonable way as we possibly can. I tell you, I am proud of the state of Alabama. I'm proud of the way that we have taken things and the advances that we've made. I recognize where we were. I was there much of that time, and I see where we are now. The difficulties, the future, and what that may hold. You're correct, Senator, when you talk about how the funds may or may not. You know, one thing that we've handled in the last number of years, 3 to 4 years now, is federal money that's coming in, whether it be CARES, whether it be ARPA, and all those matters. All that money has come in, and all of that now is going out to the various ways. I think we've been very careful in how we've handled that money, and most all of that money has gone into the ground and into infrastructure and into the future, which is unlike many states that have taken that money and used it for operating cost, for temporary fixes, for events that were, let's say, less qualified. And now they're finding that they're broke. They relied on that money to fund programs and people, and knowing that it had an end date. And that end date came about, and now they're faced with either laying people off or increasing their state outgo. We have avoided much of that. I'm not sure we avoided all, but we've avoided much of that with the controls and things that we're trying to do.
I'll tell you another line item in here that I'd give anything if it could be a couple zeros added to it, and that's Alabama Sheriff's Youth Ranch. The Alabama Sheriff's Youth Ranch does an unbelievable job with the children that they are raising, and we give them a good amount of money, $200,000, but for what they're doing, that's a drop in the bucket. But it's being fiscally responsible here for what we're doing. But going to those ranches and seeing what they do, seeing the smile on those children's faces, they wouldn't have a place. A lot of these would not have a place but for these ranches. And the involvement in the community. I grew up in Cook Springs right off I-20, and we had a Sheriff's Youth Ranch. Went to church. We all went to church. We were all like brothers and sisters growing up, play basketball together, ride our bicycles together, and just they were all part of your family, and to this day, you still stay in touch with a lot of them. And some of the house parents that were there, they become part of your family, and then times got tough, things got cut, and that ranch got cut for a long time, and to see it come back to join the rest of the ranches, and it took a lot of hard work, but we now have some kids there, and to watch those kids have an opportunity, but for that ranch, they wouldn't have no opportunity. And I think as a state, we've done, a lot of places done real good of basically adopting the children in and others raising those children. And if we don't continue doing that, I don't know where our future is going to be, because right now we have so many children raising themselves. I can tell you one thing, when I went to school, if the child got in trouble, or if I got in trouble, you got in trouble at home. It didn't matter what the circumstances, because you raised attention to yourself with a teacher. Well, now what we see is the teacher's always wrong, the law enforcement officer's always wrong because my little child does no wrong, or the parent's not involved in the child's life and the child's raising themselves. But for programs like this that can bring the children in and take care of them and teach them right, teach them, what not to do, and have some safety for them, have a bedroom, have their own clothes, have the foods that they have. Because one thing that broke my heart is we did back in the summer, I was helping with a group feeding some children, and when a child comes to you and says, hey, if y'all have anything left over, can I get a go box and take it home? And you start talking to that child, and before them taking that meal home, they wouldn't have much to eat at home. And it breaks your heart. And that's what you have the backpack buddies in our area that raise a lot of money, and every Friday put canned foods and different things in backpacks and send it home for the weekend for the children, just so that those children do have something. And seeing these kind of items in the budget, warms your heart. Know that there's children that's going to be taken care of, even if it's 1 or 2 child nutrition or something of that nature. It just makes you feel better.
Well, you're correct. The world is full of need. You don't have to go far to find where there's a homeless child, malnourished, maltreated, and the entities that we have to try to care for and to cover those bases are inadequate. Of course, nothing can replace mom and daddy. All right? Nothing can replace that. The home is of less importance than the people that's in the home. The state is an extremely poor substitute in that way. But we've still got to find a way to make sure that these individuals, no matter what age really, are cared for, have a place to live, have food on the table, and that's a chore. That is a chore that most people do not want to see. Had a meeting yesterday with a volunteer group that are partially funded through our funds, and they help with children through DHR principally, and they're giving the stories and the examples that come into play there and how they are able to help. And through that small organization, been able to help more than 1,300 children, I think it was, and move them into better circumstances. Now, 1,300 is a drop in the bucket with the difficulties we're faced with our children in Alabama. But that goes back to the old story about the starfish. You remember the story of the starfish? You haven't heard that story?
Educate me.
Walking down the beach, you see this dude down at one end, and he walks a little way and he steps down and he picks something up and he throws it out. Walks a little further, bends down, picks it up, and throws it out, and does that. So you walk up to him and say, "What are you doing? What are you throwing?" He says, "Well, all these starfish that have washed up, and I may have it, doing the best I can from my memory. All these starfish, and if they left here, they will die. Their life is ended because the tide's out and it won't come back in. So I'm tossing them back in the ocean so they can survive." And you look around and say, "Look, there's hundreds and thousands of these starfish out here. What are you doing that for? It's useless." And he said, "Well," and he picks one up and tosses it into the ocean. He said it made a difference for him. That's what we need to do, is one-on-one and a continual means. So what we need is more starfish tossers, I guess. Those are the elements and things that we try to do in Alabama to foster the involvement, to foster people doing good for our neighbors and friends.
And it goes back to looking at another item, the Veterans PTSD program. These are the gentlemen that made it where we can come here and do this. Made it where we can go to the service station, where we can go to the grocery store, be safe at our homes. And it's another item that is important to protect them, important to be there to help them, stand there for them, and provide a need of anything they have. There's no way we can make up for what they've protected us and done for us. The crisis intervention and sensory training is another important aspect. Substance abuse prevention services. If we get them off drugs, we know they're productive. You cannot be productive if you're on drugs. So just going through here and looking at some of the programs, some of the things we do, and as you go into Pardons and Parole, look at that electronic monitoring program. Every person that's on electronic monitoring is not in a bed in one of our prisons. Are they going to screw up again? Sure, a few of them are, but if we can keep them out of the prison, that saves us money. Put them on that monitor, and I hope we can continue some of those aspects.
We can, and along that line, I'll also point out a couple of things that I think the legislature can be proud of along this line. It wasn't too long ago that Pardons and Paroles did not have adequate facilities to meet their demands for housing and for supervision and those type things. We were wrestling with that, trying to figure out what we could do. And we discovered and finally moved forward with, in fact, at one point, Pardons and Paroles was shutting them down. We had one facility that they were just going to shut down and close down, which they did. Now what do you do? So what we did, and it's one of these years that we had cautiously handle our funds and monies. And there was this abandoned, well, it wasn't abandoned, it was a closed facility that had been used as a medium facility for prisoners for Department of Corrections. But it was not owned by them, it was owned by a private entity. And it was simply vacant. It had a capacity of 800 inmates, but it had been left vacant because private housing prisoners became politically untenable. So with that being left there, and it was left there for a number of years, so a few years ago, seeing this and looking at what our needs were immediately, what the state did was approach the owner, and we bought that facility. We didn't borrow money. We negotiated a pretty decent deal because to build that was going to cost a whole big bunch of money. What we did is we purchased it for a rock bottom. Went in and put $5 million to refurbish and to meet the immediate needs. And it was in operation within a very short time. And now we have something, last I heard, I think there was somewhere around 250 inmates that's there that they're controlling and handling. I think that's a success story because we took and found an instance and filled a need that was urgent and important and that we could do quickly, very cheaply. Now that goes unheralded in many ways, but that gave Pardons and Paroles a means of giving them proper oversight, someplace that when you pick them up, you could take them to if need be, someplace you could house them and watch them, someplace you could train them. There was a second place where they had closed down that we reopened. We refurbished that, and now that's functioning, but it's functioning for Pardons and Paroles for female inmates. It's exclusively for females. So now we have a place that we can house them, that we can train them, that we can prepare them for release. Now, no one knows what we've done along that line. No one is aware, I don't think very few people are aware of what the state has done to improve in that way. And that's because we've managed our money carefully. And we've found entities and people that we can work hand in hand with to bring about the good and the necessary services there that can help folks move in. So if people want to criticize us for not being prepared or not having housing or not getting people ready to go on the outside from prison, frankly, they're just wrong. We have made huge strides there, and we're continuing to do that. So those are just a couple of instances that are very recent that we've made significant progress and improvements in.
As I look at a couple more items in here, the one thing, I guess, checking is, I don't know if sure you and Senator Allen may already qualify the silver-haired legislature. I mean.
No, but I think Senator Wagner might.
I was not going to throw the rules chairman under the bus. I know where to stop there. We keep going, I'm not going to have any hair. So, but you go back to the tourism aspects in the budget and bringing people from outside Alabama into Alabama. And if you look down the items under there, what we've got some really incredible places here and some tourism events that occur here that people would never know if it wasn't for us helping support some of these things and bring them here to show them what we have. I've got in Lincoln here in my district, the city has spent around $10 million developing a bass fishing or a fishing park. Phenomenal. You have all kinds of events there, and it's really brought a regional aspect. People coming from Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, and they're fishing there, and they're having tournaments every weekend. And all it does, it helps the hotels in Calhoun County, St. Clair County, Talladega, but they're full of fishermen. Their restaurants are full. You go up, and there's a little hidden place I like to go eat, and I think a lot of them have found where that little hidden place is, and got some of the best prime rib and fish and Cajun style, everything. And now, if you're not careful, the boats will be parked around there and you can't get in. It's like, who told them? Who told them about our little secret spot? And I'm sure Senator Elliott has some of those down in Baldwin County, little places he likes to eat that he don't want the tourist to know where he can just go and get his special fish or get in and get out without having to wait for an hour and a half or 2 hours. But we've just got some unique places around here.
Yeah, if I might, Senator, that sounds like, it makes me wonder, who is the prey there? Is the fish the prey, or is it the fishermen that are the prey? What bait never mind.
Probably according to what day. You can look at me, I like eating fish, so fish, meats, whatever. I enjoy all that. Then we have the SEC baseball tournament. Be able to bring that. And I'm sure Senator Wagner enjoys that because I know what kind of sports fan he is on every sport around. Being able to bring that and watch that happen here, and you've got all these teams from all over the SEC that come into Alabama and hold their tournament here. Think about the revenue generated, the hotel revenue, the restaurant revenue, and all that flows back in. And they get to share an exciting experience in our state that but for that they would.
For our parks through DCNR. And the number of things that we've been able to accomplish and the improvements. It was just last year we floated a bond, I think it was $80 million, to go in and accomplish those things. We made huge progress there in developing our parks, and there's a larger plan for that moving forward along there. So I'm excited about all that. Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I think we're prepared we're on SB 69, are we not?
That's correct.
All right. I'd move for final passage using previous rule without objection.
Any objection? Secretary, call the roll. Short roll.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, no nays. SB 69 receives final passage. Thank you, Senator Albritton. Secretary, call the next bill on the calendar.
On page 31 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 68 by Senator Albritton regarding state employees, BR pending.
Senator Albritton.
Thank you. I lost count. Are we on 68? Yes, SB 68, cost of living increase. With that, I'd move the.
Any objection? Secretary calls short roll.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
33 ayes, no nays. BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 31 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 68 by Senator Albritton regarding state employees.
Mr. President?
Senator?
As mentioned previously, SB 68 is a 2% pay raise, cost of living increase for state employees. And I think Senator has some comments.
Senator Carnley.
Yeah, I was just going to dialogue with you and talk a little bit about it. And
please.
Yep. Just tell you that, number one, we appreciate you offering this to recognize the work that our employees do each and every day and scattered throughout our state. And, you know, somebody that started out in local government at the county level, and you know, you get to really know a lot of your employees, people that you work with that are in the highway departments, administrative personnel that help you each and every day, and you know, kind of educate you, and when the problems come up, they help you. I always told folks in the highway department in Coffee County, because folks would see you and tell you they appreciated you helping them with an issue. You know, it's the employees that help make me look good, you know, to my constituents.
They're doing a poor job.
Me or them?
Yeah. No, you making you look good. I mean, that's,
no, I
that's
thought
a difficult job.
I thought if people complimented me, they were doing a really good
Is
job.
that right? All right, good.
Yeah, so they were doing an excellent job. But, you know, and it's a difficult thing. I think anybody that's in the private sector knows the competition in the marketplace today to retain, to attract quality employees, people that, you know, are coming in with a desire to work and to learn and to be better at what they do each and every day. And, you know, I can't speak for all state employees, but I can speak for the ones, you know, in this building that I know, and their commitment to the state of Alabama and the citizens of this state and the great work that they do. They've always been gracious to help, you know, especially somebody that's new, to learn what's going on and to make sure that we have the resources that we need in deploying the work that we do as legislators. And you know, first I want to say thank you to each one of them and all the hard work that they put in each and every day. You know, and back home, I've had people that work that'll contact me, and you know, with the inflation that's going on all around us, you know, food costs are going up, medical care costs are going up, fuel's going up, so it's just, you know, everyday expenses, not luxury items, but just things that we need each and every day are taking more and more of that paycheck every week. So when they come home, it's, you know, it's hard to save money. It's hard to have anything extra to go out and spend time with your family, or, you know, much less go on a vacation that helps out our tourism and, you know, things that generate monies for our state, from tax revenue to Orange Beach to North Alabama.
Would you, you know, I agree with everything you say. Would you have an objection to us moving this along?
Nope, I'm good with it.
All right.
If you're good.
Mr. President, I'd move adopt final passage of SB 68, using previous rule without objection.
Any objection using previous roll? Hearing none, clerk call the short roll for us.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. SB 68 sees final passage. Secretary, call the next bill on the calendar.
On page 32 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 66 by Senator Albritton regarding supplemental appropriations. BR pending.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir, Senator Albritton.
we're on SB 66. Yes. Supplemental appropriations. I move for passage of the BIR using previous rule without objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, clerk call the short roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. The BIR is adopted. Clerk, call the bill.
On page 32 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 66 by Senator Albritton regarding supplemental appropriations. Committee substitute pending.
Mr. President?
Senator Albritton.
At this point, I'd move to set aside the committee substitute. Is that the proper motion?
That is the motion to lay it on the table?
Lay it on the table, yeah.
Okay.
Using previous rule without objection. Or you
All
going
those
to do a voice vote?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion to lay it on the table is adopted. Senator Albritton.
I have a floor amendment.
Senator Albritton.
Substitute, floor substitute.
Read and receive the substitute.
Floor substitute for Senate Bill number 66 by Senator Albritton.
For clarification, this sub has already been provided to you. It's already on your desk. And also the changes is also on the spreadsheet. It's already there too. And I'd entertain any questions or comments if there be any.
Senator Lewis.
President, I have an amendment.
Clerk, read and receive the amendment. We're on the sub right now.
Yeah, we're on the sub right now.
that
Have we
motion.
adopted the sub?
No.
No?
There's a motion
I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
I believe you'd asked for a motion to adopt the sub.
That is exactly what I thought I said.
And did you use your
previous role.
Hearing any objection to that? Hearing none, clerk, call the short roll for us.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
Substitute is adopted, 34 ayes, 0 nays. Senator Albritton.
Thank you. And I think my colleague has a friendly amendment.
Mr. President, I have an amendment.
Clerk, if you'll read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to the substitute by Senator Livingston. Replace line 14 on page 1 with the following. Replace line 28 on page 1 with the following. Replace line 43 on page 2 with the following. Replace line 95 on page 4 with
Mr. President, I see the amendment, and I believe that's a friendly amendment. And I'd move for adoption of the amendment using previous role.
Is there any objection using previous role? Got a question? Senator Coleman Madison, you're recognized.
We have I think we have a motion to have the amendment read.
Yes, that's what I want to know, what we're voting on here. I mean,
Okay, all
changing the amount to what, from what, and what's it for?
Read the amendment. Yes.
Clerk, if you'll read the amendment in total.
Amendment to the substitute by Senator Livingston. Replace line 14 on page 1 with the following. $215,427,369. Replace line 28 on page 1 with the following. the state for a total amount of $215,427,369. Replace line 43 on page 2 with the following: total of $215,427,369 from the state general fund. Replace line 95 on page 4 with the following: Medicaid waiver program, $1,672,000. 13, to the Tourist Department for a study on establishing a statewide trails network as provided in Act 2023-378, $1 million. Replace line 100 on page 4 with the following: 15, to the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Senator Coleman Madison.
Yeah, question. We're taking money out of the Medicaid waiver program here?
No.
Okay, so we are adding $1 million to the tourism department. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct. Is this one-time appropriation?
One time. Any other questions? If not, I move final passage using previous roll, or adoption using previous roll.
Any objection using previous roll? Hearing none, clerk call the short roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays, SB 66. 34 ayes, 0 nays. The amendment offered by Senator Livingston is adopted. Senator Albritton.
Mr. President, with that, I'd move for final passage as amended using previous roll.
Any objection using previous roll? Hearing none, clerk call the short roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
34 ayes, 0 nays. SB 66 receives final passage. Clerk, call the next bill on the calendar.
On page 31 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 67 by Senator Albritton regarding appropriations. BR pending.
Mr. President, move for passage of the BIR using previous roll without objection.
No passage on
no BIR?
budget.
Of course, silly me. Habit. Mr. President, there's a floor substitute to the correction. There is a committee substitute that was on this. I'd move to lay that on the table at this point. Did I get ahead of y'all?
Senator Albritton, your motion was to lay the committee sub on the table?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is that using previous roll?
Voicemail, using voice.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Senator Albritton.
Mr. President, I have a floor amendment.
Clerk, read and receive the floor amendment.
Floor substitute for Senate Bill number 67 by Senator Albritton.
Mr. President.
Senator Albritton.
For everyone, this has also been presented to y'all. It's on your desk. And also on the spreadsheet, it has the changes reflected on the spreadsheet between the governors, the committee substitute, and this substitute, the floor substitute. All that is covered on the spreadsheet. And I have a gentleman, I think, Senator, wishes to comment.
Senator Allen.
Let me go get my spreadsheet, okay?
Yes, sir. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the general fund budget. It runs to a total, I think, of a few pages, 125 pages. And if you'll notice, unlike a few years ago, it's laid out in form landscape style, so it'll have the charts and such there. All right, I think we're set to go on that at this point. And I think the senator has some comments.
Yes, sir. Just,
Senator Allen, you're recognized.
yes, sir. Mr. President, may I have a moment? Okay.
You're recognized, Senator Allen.
I have an amendment being prepared and dealing with I know how important the entire budget is, and I would have to commend the chairman for the work that he has done on this, and it's a lot of important issues that depends on this budget. One of those issues, Mr. Chairman, I made a brief comment to you earlier this morning about the forestry.
Yes, sir.
And I live in West Alabama, and like many of our colleagues, we all have an industry in our backyard, so to speak, in the forestry industry. And
you know who you're talking to here, Gil, Mr. Pine Tree himself. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. And recent, the last budget, I think the last budget, the forestry purchased the number of tractors, equipment, caterpillars.
That is correct. Bulldozers.
That's right.
Trucks, trailers, and all the attachments and accessories. Yes.
The large number of those caterpillars are antiquated. You know, when I say antiquated, they've got some age on them, between 20 and 30 years of age, and the money that the state is spending on repairs, you know, so this will be a good time for us to address that issue. Now, I would have to suggest to you, you know, and the fact that we can't replace all the tractors this budget year, but I do think that we need to make an effort towards that end on some replacements. And of course, you know, when you're looking at a piece of equipment, you know, you're looking at $300,000 per unit, and that comes with I'm not real sure what you call it, a trailer or something to carry the dozer on it. Okay, so you're looking at a unit of 300,000, and so when you start doing your math on replacing 100 of those, you know, certainly I understand where you're at trying to put together a budget, and I appreciate you, I really do. But at the same time, we've got an agency that's struggling with old, you know, wore out equipment that needs to be replaced and dealt with. So anyway, that's one of the things that we're looking at here is that part of government is a very important function of our state, dealing with the number of fires that takes place all corners of the state that they call 24/7. And when you get on site and one of those dozers will not crank, won't operate, hydraulics is gone. So
or it doesn't have a cab that brakes and such.
Okay, so yeah, you know exactly what we're dealing with here. So with that, it's one of those kind of things where having employees go out to deal with a very critical, serious issue in a community or close to a community in the middle of nowhere, maybe. I'm not sure where it may be. Of course, you know, being where you're from, you've been exposed to events of this nature. And yes, in fact, in Tuscaloosa County, we've been exposed to a number of forest fires. In fact, we had one recently that lasted for a couple of days. And so we were fortunate enough to have the good equipment there in the forestry department in Tuscaloosa and Northport that was able to deal with that outbreak of forest fires. So that's one of the things that's very, very important that we got to deal with. Mr. President.
Senator Allen.
Okay, yeah. So the other item that we've got as well.
May I address the issue with the Forestry Commission?
You sure can. I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay. I'm acutely aware of the circumstances that's there. And like I mentioned earlier, Forestry Commission came to me early on with a plan, long-term plan of replacing a few every year as we went along. And we started that out, and we in fact increased that. I won't say increased. We speeded that up in the first year. And then last year in particularly, and we were continuing that, and last year in particularly, we were able to make a huge step in that regard. We had the funds that were available, and we took that and we shifted monies around so that we could match that and accomplish that task with getting a major element there with their equipment that you've spoken of. And again, it wasn't just the bulldozers. Yeah. It was the blades. It was the back attachments. It was the radios that go with it. Right. It was the truck to haul it. It was the trailer to put on there, all of which were needed accessories, lights and other things. We were able to buy a significant number of those to push this. I know that they have others that are other needs, and I'm acutely aware of that. But just like last year when we moved monies around to accommodate that, this year I'm having to move monies around to be able to achieve another acute matter that we got to get to. And so I've spoken to the commission about this. I was triple and quadruple teamed on this, and we had the discussion on where we are and such. This is not a matter of trying to hurt, harm, and there was no cuts even made in this. This is simply a matter that we're having to move some funds around this year so that we can meet an acute matter so that next year we'll be able to come in and hopefully be able to move forward, continue on. But we're already far ahead of the game in this than we have been for a long, long time. So I emphasize, there's no cuts there. We are far ahead of the plan that they had brought forward already previously. We've done very well with what we've done with, and now I have to shift some things around to meet more acute, and we'll get back to this as we need to.
How many units did we purchase this past budget year? Do you recall?
More than I expected. I can't remember precisely, but it covered the whole state with new purchases. And they had made the purchases, they'd put things together, and last summer they were getting them in place. So I don't remember, but it was 20, 25, I don't remember.
Yeah, that sounds, yeah. Yep.
I understand, but that doesn't count the numbers that we had purchased the year and two before also.
Right.
So we are way ahead of schedule, what their planned schedule was, and we're going to pick it up again. It's just this year I got to move some monies around.
Do you by chance have a inventory list showing the age of their equipment by chance? Do you have that?
I don't have it with me, but I'm sure we can get that, certainly. And if you make a comparison of that from, let's say, even 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you'll find a huge difference there. But we can get that for you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's let me ask you another thing.
And I think Tuscaloosa has a couple of those brand new units there.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. But what I'm hearing though is that we We're just not there yet.
I recognize that.
And purchasing 5, 10 pieces of equipment, I think would go a long way with that.
It would. It would.
So-
And so would another 10 crisis centers with mental health. And so would additional spaces for, there's a lot of needs out there, Senator. I'm trying to find a path that we can do the most with what we've got. And sometimes that takes a shifting to for lack of a better term, to put a fire out there. When a fire breaks out in the forest, and it's a big one, you've got to move equipment from one point to another. That's all I'm doing. I'm fighting fires. And I'm trying to make sure that we get everything done in the state as we possibly can.
Well, listen, you continue to explain your budget. I'm waiting for an amendment, so I'm going to step away and I'll be back.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Allen. All right, Senator Barfoot.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Albritton, I know you've explained some of this that's come up already, and quite honestly, kind of preoccupied up in the chair up there.
You looked good up there, Senator.
Well, not sure about the looking good anywhere, especially in that seat. But I do want to look at some things and just some highlight and make some comments if I could. My district is District 25, which covers a good portion of Elmore County and as well as Montgomery and Crenshaw, kind of central Alabama, what some people would call the river region. And when I start to look through here, I notice some items that are specific to other parts of the state, and I don't see a whole lot in the way of Montgomery or District 25 as a whole. I won't be able to quote the line at this point because I don't have my highlighted version with me, but I did notice that, for instance, Montgomery Airport had a big has a pretty big need, and those monies I don't find in this particular budget for the airport. I do see some other airports that had some benefit, and we've had some very candid conversations about that, and I'm appreciative of you taking time to talk with me about that.
Anytime, Senator. I love talking to you mostly.
Most of the time.
Yes, sir.
Well, and then obviously, when we concentrate a lot of times on the urban areas, the Huntsvilles, the Birminghams, the Montgomerys. The senator from over in Huntsville says he doesn't see a whole lot of Huntsville in there, but the rural counties a lot of times are sometimes get left out, and so I've got an issue that we've talked about for the last couple of years in Crenshaw County. I'm grateful for the help that you've given those folks down there in the past. And
don't talk too loud, please.
Well, the folks in Crenshaw County, they have needs like the other 66 counties.
They do.
And you've been receptive, I think, to help folks in District 25 along the way the best you could. And I just want to tell you that I'm appreciative of those past considerations, and certainly hopeful that we can continue to work together going forward.
And let me make this statement too. And if you look through, you will see matters where I have literally dropped out line items from last year's budget to this year that was in my district. Now, I'm not trying to cut my throat. I still got next year. But I know that when we're trying to accomplish something, I can't just, I have to reach out and touch several. It takes a grouping to accomplish movement of matters that we need to. I just want you to understand, I can show you where those monies have not been accomplished and where those have been dropped out in my district. So I feel your pain, I understand, but I can't do that with you and the other gentlemen here and ladies without going that way myself. So just let you know.
Well, I understand that. I would say, a lot of times that there are projects, and we all have them, and they're valid, a lot of times valid projects, and the folks at the local level, want a commitment or some help in order to, because a lot of times they stick their neck out. It's
Yeah, I
not,
know.
a lot of times
I know.
on budget items, it's not 100% state funding. As a matter of fact, and you would know this better than I do, a lot of times it's, what is the match at the local level? And sometimes even when we get up in the 80+ percentile range for the local funds, that's an important consideration in the budgeting process. If you're in for a penny, in for a pound, and make sure you have some skin in the game. Some of the phrases that we use, and I know certainly other areas of the state, I'm sure, have done that as well. But I've got areas of District 25 that have, over the past couple of years, have really stepped up to make sure that they are in and they are contributing, and we just want to make sure that
Yes.
All right,
Without
any objection? Senator Weaver, are you good? All right, hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
Well, he promised.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
Page 4 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 116 by Senator Gavan regarding the Alabama Wastewater Board.
Senator Gavan.
Mr. President, what this is this is a sunset bill that extends the on-site wastewater board for 1 year. There were some infractions that were reported that weren't particularly major, but one of our minority senators had some concerns about it, and so we only did it for a year extension. That's why it's 1 year, because one of our colleagues had some problems with it. So I think Senator Smitherman has.
Senator Smitherman.
I like the way you did that. I saw that lawyer come out in you, because you don't have to label no minority member got it now. Just say one of our members.
Okay.
We don't want this segregation stuff popping out.
Hardly
We don't
said
want
that because you were up there, and I wanted to know why.
I was up here since you asked me. I'll answer you because I should do that. I really wasn't coming just for your bill. I was going to come once he recognized me to ask every person that came to do what you just did, explain the bill, and not just come up because some of them we didn't had a chance to really, really look at because people are focusing on the budget and stuff. So that's why I was standing. But since you said that, and I know you didn't mean a thing about it, but I was just saying it's nice to say one of our members.
Understood.
We together. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
So that no further questions, I would move final passage using previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes.
32 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 116 passes. Thanks, Senator Gavan.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Secretary, call next bill.
On page 42 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 258 by Senator Kelly and others regarding commercial driver's licenses. BR pending.
Mr. President.
Senator Kelly.
Move adoption of the BR by the previous rule.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 42 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 258 by Senator Kelly and others regarding commercial driver's license. Committee amendment pending.
Senator Kelly.
Mr. President, I've got a committee amendment to offer.
All right, Secretary Reed received the committee amendment. Oh, I'm sorry, they've already got, it's committee amendment, it's already on the board.
It's already on.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want adoption of the committee amendment?
Yes, sir.
Using previous rule?
Yes, sir.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The committee amendment's adopted. All right, Senator Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. President. What this bill does is it brings the state, revise the laws to bring them into compliance with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and it removes requirements that our codes are out of compliance with the national levels, and it's also revising the fees, not raising any, and then there's also a requirement there that deals with human trafficking. So with that being the case, Mr. President, I move for adoption.
All right, would you like to use previous rule?
Yes, sir.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes.
32 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 258 passes. Thanks, Senator Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Secretary, call next bill.
On page 20 of the calendar, House Bill 127 by Representative Pettis and others regarding crimes and offenses. BR pending.
Senator Melson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to go ahead and move the BR using previous rule.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes and no nays.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 20 of the calendar, House Bill 127 by Representative Pettis regarding crimes and offenses.
Senator Melson.
I think there's a committee amendment. Is that correct? I'd like to adopt the committee amendment using previous row. Yes. Mr.
All
President,
right, now, just waiting on the screen to catch up. All right, so,
would you like me to go ahead and talk about the bill briefly, whether,
all right, committee, we're ready.
okay.
Yeah.
Like to,
Adoption of the committee amendment using previous rule. Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The committee amendment's adopted. All right, Senator Melson.
thank you, Mr. President. There was no crime for removing an ankle bracelet. This simply makes it a Class D felony. It does not, for any accidental removal or any type of that, there's no punishment. Somebody else takes it off you, there's no punishment there. It's if you intentionally, the perpetrator actually removes the ankle bracelet, then he would be held responsible, maybe lose privileges if he's working work release and things like that. So I'd like to move for final passage using the long roll.
All right. Secretary, call the long roll.
Previous roll.
No, previous roll. All right, long roll.
Long roll.
Secretary, call the long roll.
All right, coming.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Reed. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
(26 ayes, 2 nays). House Bill 127 passes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Melson. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 11 of the calendar, House Bill number 10 by Representative Pringle regarding
All right. Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
(28 ayes, no nays). The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 11 of the calendar, House Bill number 10 by Representative Pringle regarding crimes and offenses.
All right. Senator Weaver.
I'm carrying this bill for Representative Pringle, and it is correcting a software error that happened last year. There was a new bill filing system that was being used by the House for the first time, and there was an error when this bill went over to the governor's office, and she signed a version that was actually not the one that we passed. So this one is the one that we brought back, that was the version that was supposed to have been passed last year, or that was passed but was not sent over and signed. It was readopted with the Smitherman Amendment from last year that had fentanyl or its derivatives, and also the Representative England edition that added knowingly. So with that, if there are no questions, I'd like to move for final passage, or if there are questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I do have questions, and I think that when this bill was passed out of the committee, I think I even voted with reservation. And I still have some of those reservations in terms of the distribution of this drug, as to whether or not someone knowingly distributed the drug. And however, I may be a drug dealer and sold a pill and not knowingly that fentanyl was in this particular drug. and I think that you made it a non-affirmative defense. So I may have known that I sold a drug, but what if that I cannot attest the intent to sell, knowingly that there were fentanyl in this particular drug? I didn't make it up. I'm just a drug dealer, and I sold you a pill that I may have thought that was something else, Oxycontin, but yet and still it had fentanyl in it. And if I didn't know that it had fentanyl in it, and normally is the standard of proof here, how does that affect me, even though I'm the drug dealer? I know I'm doing an illegal act by selling it to you, but I may not know that fentanyl is in it, because when I bought it from whoever I bought it from, as a secondhand man who's selling the drug, if I didn't particularly make it and put the fentanyl in it, how did I know that fentanyl was in it when you consume it?
So that part is covered in this bill, and the Chris England amendment addresses that issue. You have to know it's in there to be prosecuted.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
So that's addressed in the Chris England amendment, and you have to know it's in there to be prosecuted.
So you got to know that it's in there to be prosecuted. You normally have to be there. So for instance, okay, if I sold a drug to Bobby today, Lil Bobby, if I sold Lil Bobby a drug today as a drug dealer, okay, and so Lil Bobby dies as a cause of this drug. We said the approximate cause of the death when he been examined was he took these pills and he died from fentanyl, but Big Bobby didn't know that fentanyl was inside of that pill that I sold to him. So then do I have an affirmative defense because I didn't know that fentanyl was in it?
You have to know it's in there to be prosecuted.
I have to know that it was in there.
Yeah, that's why we added the knowingly amendment that Representative England brought.
I just want to make sure because not just because I sold it to him, but I need to know that it was in there.
He didn't know he can't be prosecuted.
And had the intent to sell it to him. Okay, I got you. That sounds better. I just want to make sure that we're just not, putting people in jail. They probably need to be in jail because of a drug dealer anyway. But you could get a pill, there's a lot of these are prescribed pills and not necessarily something that, somebody man-made, and if fentanyl is in it, and it was for the use of something else, and I know that there's a law that you sold a pill that really wasn't yours or for outside of its use, but if someone were to die and for approximate cause of that death was based on that being the pill, I just don't want us to seeing us locking folks up because there was no intent to sell him something to kill him. But if we knowing that the fentanyl is in it, I know I got this hot pill now because it got this fentanyl in it, and I know that Lil Bobby gonna want that pill because he liked that fentanyl, and I sell it to him and he dies as approximate cause of death, then I could be guilty. I got you. Is that it, sir? Gotcha. This is not a got you bill. This is not just because I'm a drug dealer, got you. It's a got you because you knew and should have known. Or no, not should have known, but you knew. Gotcha. Okay.
All right.
Gotcha. I mean, at the end of the day, I want to make sure that this happened. I'm not totally against it, but I just want to make sure that when we're dealing with state of mind, that the person who did it with the intent to sell, knowingly that they were selling a drug that had fentanyl in it, and not the fact that I got a drug as a third party from somebody else, who I bought it from Lil Bobby Jr., and Big Bobby's now going to sell it back to Lil Bobby over here, and because I'm the middleman, I didn't know what was in the drug, and as approximate cause, Lil Bobby dies from that, and now I could be held guilty of that when I didn't know that fentanyl was in it. I thought I was just selling Oxycontin, to someone or something of that nature. Whatever I don't know what they do because I don't do do drugs of that nature, of that nature.
I think we got them covered. If you don't know, you
All right.
can't be prosecuted.
Okay. You don't know you can't be prosecuted. Got you covered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Singleton.
I just
Always
wanna
good to
make
hear
sure we
stories
don't
about
know.
little Bobby.
Thank you. I want to make sure little Bobby be protected.
Yeah, I like little Bobby.
Yeah, little
always
Bobby.
good hearing about his adventures
sir.
in life.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. All right, Senator Weaver.
So with that, I'd like to renew my motion. Final passage using previous rule, no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
28 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 10 passes. Thanks, Senator Weaver. All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 45 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 207 by Senator Hatcher and others regarding dietitians. BR pending.
Senator Hatcher.
Mr. President, I'd like to move for passage of the BIR using the short roll without objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
28 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 45 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 207 by Senator Hatcher and others regarding dietitians.
Mr. President,
Senator Hatcher.
members of the body, this bill seeks to, it's one of our military-friendly bills that seeks to allow the Board of Examiners for Dietetics and Nutrition to enter into a compact for dietitian licensure. And it makes it much more uniform for them to continue to do it this way. So if there are no questions, I'd like to move for final passage of the bill using the previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 207 passes. Thanks, Senator Hatcher. All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 12 of the calendar, House Bill number 168 by Representative Woods and others regarding crimes and offenses.
Senator Weaver.
Move the BIR previous rule, no objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 12 of the calendar, House Bill number 168 by Representative Woods and others regarding crimes and offenses.
Senator Weaver.
This bill deals with child sexual abuse material, and the purpose is to amend our state laws to treat AI-generated child pornography the same way we treat child pornography. It keeps in place all of our current laws and penalties against child pornography, but merely adds AI-generated child porn to what is prohibited. And if there are no questions, I'd like to move for final passage, or if there are some questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
All right. Was that use previous rule?
Previous rule, no objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 168 passes. Thanks, Senator Weaver. All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 41 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 266 by Senator Livingston and others regarding motor vehicles. BR pending.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move the BIR using previous rule, no objection.
All right, any objections? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 41 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 266 by Senator Livingston and others regarding motor vehicles.
Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I have an amendment.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill 266 by Senator Livingston. Replace line 86 on page 4 with the following. Replace lines 88 through 89 on page 4 with the following.
All right, Senator Livingston.
Mr. President, I move we adopt the amendment using previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Livingston amendment's adopted.
Mr. President.
Senator Livingston.
May I explain the bill? So this bill removes the ambiguity of the Alabama Code Section 32-9-20, which sets limits and restrictions on physical attributes of vehicles that travel roads, especially addressing the allowed tolerance. So this makes a tolerance available at not only portable scales, but fixed scales also. So seeing no questions, I'd move for final passage using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton, Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 266 passes. Thanks, Senator Livingston.
Thank you, Mr. President, members.
All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 10 of the calendar, House Bill number 42 by Representative Givens regarding the Sound of Freedom Act, BIR pending.
Mr. President.
Senator Bell.
Motion to adopt BIR using previous roll.
All right, any objections? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton, Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 10 of the calendar, House Bill number 42 by Representative Givens regarding the Sound of Freedom Act, committee amendment pending.
Senator Bell.
Mr. President. This bill basically makes if you're trafficking a minor victim, then you're subject to minimum life imprisonment. That's basically what this change is in the trafficking law. Motion for final
From the
passage.
committee amendment. We got to adopt the committee amendment.
Motion to adopt the committee amendment.
Using previous roll?
Previous roll.
Any objection? You object to committee amendment?
No, whenever we vote, I still want to come back to him so he can explain it. I'm not against it at all.
Okay.
No, you.
All right, you do this amendment real quick?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any objection to using previous roll on the committee amendment? All right, hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton, Mr. Williams.
All right, 29 ayes, 0 nays. The committee amendment's adopted. All right, Senator Bell.
All right.
You could explain the bill.
Go ahead.
That's amendment. Can you tell me something about
Basically what this does.
the amendment?
I ain't got a
Okay.
copy of the amendment.
Can you?
You got.
I just want to know what it does.
And so basically the amendment was that in any prosecution under this section where there is a minor trafficking victim, the court shall sentence the defendant to a minimum of life imprisonment.
That's all I need to know. We've adopted it, so may I be recognized? We've adopted, so we just want to give a general comment.
Go ahead.
You know, I appreciate what you're doing. I just want to tell you that this is a big issue in my area because most people don't know, but anytime you come, not area of a lot of people, but the area being, let's make a long story short, we have geographical, we have 2 or 3 freeways that just cross each other from all directions, 65 north, south, east and west. We got Interstate 20, we got 59, and you can see when you start talking about these kind of issues right here, how our area has embraced this so seriously. Our city council has passed resolutions, and not to brag on somebody, but just tell the truth. My daughter, who's on the city council, she has taken this as a personal mission. She's with the League of Women Voters, and they have taken it on as a mission and to address this. So I applaud you taking this mantle up for the representative to make sure that we get this bill through today. And I wanted to just tell you that because I feel very strong about this issue and about what it does to our young people.
Well, it's about protecting our future.
Yeah, and thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Senator Smotherman.
Move for final passage using previous roll. No objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton, Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 42 passes. Thank you, Senator Bell. All right, Secretary, call the next bill on the calendar.
On page 22 of the calendar, House Bill number 156 by Representative Robertson and others relating to candidates for municipal office. BR pending.
Senator Kelly.
Mr. President, move adoption by BIR by previous roll.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 22 of the calendar, House Bill number 156 by Representative Roberts relating to municipal offices.
Senator Kelly.
Mr. President, what this does is on municipal offices, until a candidate has reached $1,000 in expenditures or contributions, they don't have to file a committee report. Move for adoption by previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 156 passes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Kelly. Secretary, call next bill.
On page 5 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 138 by Senator Gudger regarding the Plumbers and Gas Fitters Examining Board. BR pending.
Senator Gudger.
Mr. President, thank you. This is a sunset bill for them for a 4-year period. I'd like to move the BIR, using previous roll without objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 5 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 138 by Senator Gudger regarding the Plumbers and Gas Fitters Examining Board.
Senator Gudger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make a final motion and final passage for SB 138, using previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 138 passes. Thanks, Senator Gudger.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
Page 37 of the calendar, House Bill number 161 by Representative Moore and others regarding crimes and offenses. BR pending.
Senator Carnley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request BIR using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 37 of the calendar, House Bill number 161 by Representative Moore and others regarding crimes and offenses.
Senator Carnley.
Amendment pending.
I'd like to adopt the committee amendment using previous roll. No objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. Committee amendments adopted. All right, now on final passage.
Yes, sir. Request third reading to be dispensed of using previous roll. No objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Thank you.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 161 passes amended. Thanks, Senator Carnley. Secretary, call next bill.
On page 51 of the calendar, House Bill number 2 by Representative Chestnut regarding Dallas County Board of Education. BR pending.
Senator.
Mr. President, I move for the adoption of the BIR using previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 51 of the calendar, House Bill number 2 by Representative Chestnut relating to Dallas County.
All right, Senator, you're recognized.
Mr. President, I move for final passage using previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Straw written. Mr. Williams.
All right, 29 ayes, 0 nays. House Bill 2 passes. Thank you, Senator. All right, Senator Reed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the body, thank you again for your hard work today. We had a significant calendar today. The general fund budget has passed, and we're very appreciative of all of your diligence and hard work. I want to thank the staff always for their diligence and hard work. Mr. Secretary, all of your staff that support us so capably, and I appreciate the good work that we've had today. I want to make the body aware I've got one other piece of business that's important. I'll explain it to you when I do that, but I've got one other thing before we make a an adjournment motion that we need to take care of.
All right. Senator Smotherman, did you want to be recognized?
Yes, sir.
All right, Senator Reed.
With that, Mr. President, we finished the calendar. We finished the one item. I would like to set sunset aside for one item, an introduction of a bill.
Okay. Using previous roll?
Previous roll.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays. The motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. Pro Tem, Mr. President, could I be recognized? Is it time, Mr. Secretary? I saw my secretary moving them hands. It's time for me to talk. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I want each and every...
24 by Senator Coleman and others relating to elections is referred to the Judiciary Committee.
All right. Thank you, Senator Smotherman.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
I want everybody just to listen for a minute. I know we get to a good point that you're probably going to see these tail lights. But I want to take this time to thank you, Mr. Pro Tem, for what you did today, the work, for the diligence. I say this to people who don't know. Some people can perceive. They don't know. They know parts of your day. You know, I can sit back and look at it. I don't know all of it, but I know a lot of it. And you did an outstanding job today. We had so many different things kind of flying around. You know, that you had to kind of, you know how them planes want to take off, you had to kind of get them in line to take off as they should. So I'm serious. I want everybody to know this, that you did an outstanding job today. My wildest predictions, I told someone, I said, we'll probably at best be gone maybe at 3 or 4. You know, I knew we would have a good day, but I thought that, and thanks to you, your hard work, your wittiness, your smartness, your understanding how to go in and deal with a situation and get everybody in accordance. I want to just thank you very much. And you deserve those flowers. I mean that sincerely. I mean it. You deserve those flowers. And there you go. I want everybody to give it up. Give him a hand. Give it up. I'm serious. Give it to him. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Smotherman. Senator Reed, we all appreciate you.
Thank you, Governor. Senator, thank you for your kind words. And as I've told you before, there's only 2 people in this chamber that have been pro tem of this body, and that's me and you. So you get a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes. So much appreciated, sir. Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute privilege for me to be the president of this body. So thank you for your hard work and your diligence always. With that, Mr. President, I make a motion that we stand adjourned till 2 p.m. on Tuesday, April 16th.
All right, you heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. President.